The gilded corridors of the Grand Palace resonated with the sounds of hushed chatter and the soft rustle of silk as courtiers and advisors assembled for another council meeting. At the head of the long, ornate table sat Queen Isolde, her features a perfect blend of regal beauty and visible strain. Today, her virtual pulse quickened, tinged with an impatience that permeated the air. Mere trifles. You expect me to believe that these are the best proposals for our kingdom? Isolde's voice, sharp as a steel blade, sliced through the murmurs of the assembly. Her green eyes flashed with frustration as she glared at Lord Cedric, her trusted advisor who sat quietly at her side. "Your Majesty," Cedric began, trying to temper the storm brewing within the Queen. Perhaps, she interrupted, her tone dripping with disbelief. "Perhaps we should consider a plan to make a show of unity?" She swept her gaze across the room, where nobles averted their eyes, pretending their interest lay elsewhere. "You all speak in riddles, and I am a queen, not a jester." Amongst the assembled court members sat Alara, the young maid whose tender heart often found refuge in the presence of the queen's rage. She stood to the side, attentive yet invisible, a shadow in a room filled with glistening regality. Today, witnessing the emotion of the queen felt different. There was a vulnerability beneath her anger that Alara sensed, an ache for understanding that echoed within her. "Isolde," Cedric pressed on, his voice steady. "The council merely seeks to protect our traditions. They fear change, that is." "All traditions," Isolde scoffed, slamming her hand upon the table. "They have become shackles. Do they not see that our kingdom is suffering? They sit on their thrones, oblivious to the cries of the people beyond these walls." Alara's heart raced as she listened. Each word Isolde spoke hit her like a wave, urging her to swim against the tide of silence that enveloped the court. If Isolde was willing to fight for her vision, why couldn't she lend her voice to the cause? "Your Majesty," she spoke, barely above a whisper. Yet the room turned to her as if the air shifted. The Queen focused on her with a mix of surprise and curiosity. "With all due respect, may I suggest a different approach?" The tension became tangible, a frail thread weaving between a queen overwhelmed and a maid emboldened. Alara took a breath, feeling courage swell within her. "There are many commoners who admire you, Your Majesty. If you showed them that you value their perspectives, there might still be unity found even among opposition." A stunned silence enveloped the council chamber. Isolde's expression transformed as she absorbed Alara's words. Her face softened, revealing a flicker of hope illuminating her frustration. "You believe I should interact with the people?" "Yes, my queen," Alara responded, maintaining eye contact with the woman she admired from afar. "Invite them to share their experiences, their ideas. Together you could inspire change." For a moment, the queen seemed to retreat into her own thoughts, contemplating the path unfolding before her. The cacophony of doubting voices within the court faded as she thought about how she had longed for connection outside the estate's gilded walls. "Perhaps you are right," Isolde finally said, her fingers tracing the delicate patterns of her gown. "But it would require a plan that speaks to their hearts, and I have no intention of wasting another opportunity in this council." With her voice steady, Cedric responded, "Then let us create an initiative the likes of which this kingdom hasn't seen. A festival of sorts to forge bonds and encourage dialogue." The Queen nodded, a glimmer of determination igniting within her. The council resumed with newfound energy, but Alara noticed how the Queen's gaze lingered on her, appreciation mingling with a hint of something more, a dawning realization of the strength in valuing a maid's opinion. By the meeting's end, there was an air of excitement, and Alara felt as if she had ignited a spark, a possibility that perhaps those trapped in rigid traditions could awaken through shared voices. And as the court members filed out, the Queen remained seated, glancing at Alara across the table. "What say you, Alara? Are you willing to help me forge this new path?" Alara's heart fluttered at the invitation. "Yes, my queen," she replied, her voice firm and unwavering. Together, they exchanged silent promises in the space that unfolded between them. with the promise of a path ahead, not only for the kingdom but for their newfound connection. Queen Isolde and Ilara felt the weight of hope lift as the spark turned into an ember, promising warmth and the potential for great change. The dawn of a new day painted the grand palace in hues of gold and rose as the sun rose above the emerald hills. Ilara awoke with a flutter of trepidation in her heart. After the council meeting, her life felt altered, as if the universe had nudged her onto a different path. Today, alongside Queen Isolde, she would help prepare for the festival to connect with the people, a task simultaneously thrilling and daunting. As she dressed in a simple gown that mirrored the morning's colors, Ilara couldn't shake the weight of her words from the previous day. Was she truly bold enough to take part in this vision alongside the queen? Yet, a glimmer of hope sparked within her. Perhaps, just perhaps, they were destined to create something beautiful together. Ilara found herself in the palace gardens, lush with vibrant blossoms, the air thick with fragrance. Isolde was already there, commanding the scene as she paced beneath the arched trellises adorned with climbing roses. There was an energy about her, a new resolve that energized everything around them. "Good morning, Ilara," Isolde exclaimed, with a brightness that contrasted with her usual demeanor. "Today we shall meet people of every rank. We will invite them to the festival and discuss their hopes." Ilara smiled, heartened by the queen's enthusiasm. "How do you wish to proceed, Your Majesty? Let's not make this a mere proclamation from the palace. I want to meet them directly. We'll visit the market, mingle among them, and hear their voices." Isolde's eyes shone with fervor, and Ilara marveled at the woman she had once only seen as angry and isolated. "Your servants can help us collect ideas, but I believe personal connection will prove most valuable," Ilara suggested, striving for clarity amidst burgeoning excitement. "Excellent thought." Isolde gestured for Ilara to join her. "We shall try to understand the people's concerns ourselves. Prepare for a journey to the marketplace." By mid-morning, the two women stepped out of the palace, the grandeur of their surroundings fading into the cool, bustling atmosphere of the nearby market square. The sun shone brightly, illuminating vibrant stalls adorned with local crafts, fresh produce, and a veritable feast of colors and aromas. Ilara felt a wave of nervousness wash over her as she walked beside the queen, who had donned a simple cloak to blend in. The echo of voices, laughter, and the clinks of coins rang in the air, and the sight of the crowded streets buzzed with energy that warmed her spirit. As they approached a stall laden with fruit, Ilara caught the gaze of a child, a young girl, with tangled hair and wide, curious eyes. "Mama, look, it's the queen!" she exclaimed, drawing the attention of others. Isolde knelt before the girl, a gentle smile gracing her lips. "And who might you be, little one?" "I'm Mina. Can I have an apple?" the girl replied, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Ilara watched in awe as Isolde, once stormy and fierce, softened into a nurturing figure. "I think you deserve two," Isolde replied affectionately, reaching into the basket and handing the girl two bright red apples. Mina's eyes sparkled as she accepted the gift, her cherubic face lighting up with joy. A crowd began to gather, whispering of the benevolence of the queen. Ilara felt electricity surge in her veins. The moment was pivotal, the connection palpable. Encouraged, Ilara stepped closer to the throng gathering around Isolde, each voice eager to speak. "What do you love about our kingdom?" she asked. The crowd responded eagerly, sharing tales of happiness and hardship, of gardens nurtured with care and fields bountiful with harvest. They spoke of dreams and desires, their hopes revealed as they engaged with the queen, who now exuded grace. But soon, the conversations turned to grievances. "Our taxes are heavy," cried one man, his brow furrowed with distress. "Many of us cannot afford the basic needs for our families." Ilara felt the weight of his words settle in her chest. Isolde's expression shifted, the hopeful light she had brought dimming as the hardships of her people became apparent. "Those are serious concerns," Isolde said, her voice steady but empathetic. "I promise you your voices will not fall on deaf ears. We shall work together to ease your burdens." Ilara admired her ability to balance authority with compassion, the love she had for her people manifesting with every word. Here, amidst the laughter and tears of the market, Isolde was becoming a queen in every sense. As the day continued, they meandered from stall to stall, engaging with merchants and laborers alike. The more Isolde listened, the more hopeful the crowd became. Ilara, encouraged by the warmth of their exchanges, contributed insights, asking questions that fostered deeper conversations. "How can we help those in need?" Ilara inquired, drawing on her observations. "Perhaps give us a place to appeal for support, a gathering where we can share our struggles?" An older woman suggested, her voice tremulous yet strong. "Yes, we can hold congregations at the festival," Isolde exclaimed, excitement brimming again in her gaze. "You will have the floor to address me and the court. Together we will strive for solutions." The crowd erupted into cheers, united by a newfound hope. Ilara felt the thrilling rush of connection binding their spirits together. In that moment, she realized the festival was not just an event. It was a lifeline, forging ties between the crown and its people. As the day drew to a close, Ilara walked beside Isolde, basking in the afterglow of success. Finding a semblance of courage within herself had birthed an unbreakable bond between them. "Thank you, Ilara," the queen spoke, her voice sincere and soft. "Today you showed me that my strength lies not just in ruling but in listening and connecting." Ilara felt warmth unfurl within her chest. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Together we can truly make a difference." The sun dipped low on the horizon as the two women walked back toward the palace. In the midst of a shared dream, each step resonated with the promise of a brighter tomorrow, one built upon trust, empathy, and an unyielding voice of courage that would echo through their kingdom. As dawn graced the kingdom, Ilara stood at her window gazing out over the bustling market where the festival would soon take shape. From her modest quarters in the palace, she could see the preparations unfurling below, the joyful chatter, the lively music, and the colorful banners that danced in the morning breeze. The day's anticipation buzzed through the air like the flicker of fireflies awakening at twilight. The festival represented a pivotal moment, a potential turning point for Isolde and her reign. Ilara's heart fluttered with a mix of excitement and anxiety. She had observed the queen's resolve transform from frustration to determination, but what would it mean to step from the shadows of servitude into the spotlight as her confidant and advisor? Descending the long hallways, Ilara arrived at the atrium, where Isolde awaited her in a breathtaking gown, deep royal blue with shimmering threads of gold that caught the sunlight. The queen's hair flowed elegantly around her shoulders, adorned with delicate crystal pins that sparkled like stars. Today, she would appear not just as royalty but as a symbol of unity and empathy. "Good morning, Ilara," Isolde greeted brightly, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. "Are you ready for today? We shall make our presence known." Ilara nodded, feeling a rush of inspiration wash over her. "I am. The preparations have been splendid." As they entered the bustling courtyard, vibrant music filled the air and townsfolk mingled, their laughter resonating like a sweet melody. Strewn with flowers and decorated with colorful fabric, the festival grounds radiated warmth and joy. "Today we will address the people together. I want them to see you, your courage, and the bond we've formed," Isolde said, her voice rising with confidence. She turned to Ilara, who felt a swirl of trepidation paired with bubbling excitement. "But Your Majesty," Ilara began, the weight of her new role settling in, "I am just a maid. How can I stand beside you?" The queen paused, her gaze unwavering. "You are so much more than that. You breathed life into my vision, Ilara. Together we can set an example of cooperation and compassion." A sense of pride coursed through Ilara. She felt as if she was stepping into a new skin, shedding the fears that had held her back. As the crowd began to gather around the main stage set at the center of the courtyard, the reality of their united endeavor pressed upon her. Soon the time came for Isolde to address the crowd. Standing atop the platform, she raised her hands, silencing the eager chattering with a gentle wave. Ilara stood just behind her, a quiet storm of nerves and determination. People of our beloved kingdom. Isolde's voice rang strong, filling the space. Today marks a new beginning. I invite you to join me and my esteemed friend Ilara. The crowd clapped, though whispers flickered through the air. They were curious about Ilara, the maid. She did not share their status, nor was she cloaked in authority. But Isolde's unwavering demeanor inspired confidence, and Ilara felt the warmth in the atmosphere shift. Ilara has shown me, and all of us, that leadership arises not only from noble blood, but from understanding and passion for our realm. Isolde continued, she will help be the bridge between the throne and our people. Ilara's heart raced as Isolde gestured for her to step forward. She hesitated for a moment, caught between trepidation and purpose. Summoning all her courage, she stepped into view, the smiling faces of the crowd encouraging her. Good people, she began, her voice trembling yet resolved. This festival is not only a celebration but a promise that we will listen and work together to build a brighter future. Your concerns matter and we will take action. From the front row, a tired farmer stepped forward, his face etched with lines of hardship. Ilara, do you believe change can truly come? We have endured so long, what can you do to help us? Listening to his plea, Ilara felt a swell of determination wash over her. Change begins with understanding. Let us build a council that includes the voices of the common folk, and together we will discuss policies to relieve your burdens. The Tiwa crowd stirred with murmurings, and Ilara caught the glimmer of hope in their faces. A collective heartbeat resonated through the crowd, a fragile connection binding them, fueled by Ilara's sincerity and Isolde's unwavering support. As the speeches continued, Ilara watched Isolde's demeanor shift from regal authority to warm connection. They shared laughter, players engaging with the revelries, and soon laughter erupted like blooming flowers unfurling across the crowd. Together, with every word they spoke and every moment they connected, the tension of hierarchy began to dissolve, making way for a new kind of unity. Ilara realized they were not just a queen and a maid. They had become companions in a shared vision. The festival blossomed into a joyous affair. The people danced, tasted exotic foods, and enjoyed performances. Isolde and Ilara moved through the crowd, greeting everyone with genuine warmth. The festivities continued, the trust between the royal and the populace deepened. As day turned to dusk, lanterns began to illuminate the courtyard, painting the night with a soft radiance. Isolde turned to Ilara, a proud smile illuminating her features. Do you see? This is what we can achieve. Together we can ignite hope across the kingdom. Ilara felt a warmth flood her heart, gratitude cascading over her. Thank you, Your Majesty, for believing in me. Thank you for believing in us all, Isolde replied, her expression softening. In that moment, Ilara understood the true metamorphosis underway, not just within Isolde, but within herself as well. She was no longer merely a maid, but a vital voice in the very fabric of their kingdom. In the twinkling light of lanterns and joy, Ilara stood resolutely beside her queen. The bond forged through shared challenges now rippled through the crowd, illuminating a pathway where a once humble maid could stand shoulder to shoulder with the regal queen, both ready to embrace the destiny they had set in motion together. The vibrant festival continued to pulse within the heart of the kingdom, a colorful tapestry of laughter, dancing, and communal unity. Ilara basked in the joy surrounding her, each smile shared among the townsfolk igniting a sense of purpose deep within her. Yet as the days passed, she began to sense that the delicate thread holding together her bond with Queen Isolde was fraying. In the days following the festival, Ilara saw Isolde's initial exuberance give way to a growing strain. The queen, once filled with hope, became a storm cloud in the palace, haunted by the many voices she had encountered. The concerns of her people, the burden of their expectations, rattled in Isolde's mind like a relentless thunder. With court meetings pressing closer and challenges piling atop one another, Ilara witnessed her queen becoming increasingly isolated. Their shared laughter, once a warm balm, seemed replaced by tension and unspoken words. Isolde, Ilara approached her in the ornate dining room one evening, where the air felt thick and heavy with silence. You've hardly touched your meal. Isolde turned her gaze away from the untouched plate, her green eyes clouded with unmistakable frustration. I can't eat, Ilara. It feels wrong to celebrate while so many suffer outside these walls. Ilara felt a pang in her heart. But we valued their voices during the festival. That was a step toward change. Change takes time. But right now, I feel like I am failing them. Isolde dropped her fork with a clatter that echoed ominously. And you? What do you know of such burdens? You have my trust. Yet I can't shake the feeling that the court sees you only as my maid. Ilara's heart sank at her queen's words. The accusation, laced with a question of loyalty, twisted in her chest. I know my role, Your Majesty, but our bond is more than titles. I have believed in you, always. Belief doesn't mend kingdoms, Ilara. I am trapped, burdened by every decision, second-guessing myself daily. Isolde's voice trembled, her frustration spilling over. And it's unraveling our connection. Ilara stood, surprised by the sudden shift. The queen was wounded, and Ilara could see that her anger was but a mask for fear. Isolde, we can face these fears together. The people need your guidance and empathy, and they look to you for strength. Strength? Isolde barked, her intensity reverberating through the room. What do I know of strength when I can't even stand firm in my own decisions? Your vulnerability is your strength, Isolde, Ilara insisted. View it not as a weakness, but as a bridge to your people. If they see you falter, they will trust you more. But as her words hung in the air, Ilara sensed a deepening rift. Isolde turned away, her posture tense. Maybe they trust a queen, born of noble blood, but will they ever trust the thoughts of a maid beside her? Isolde's voice was softer now, filled with doubt. The flicker in Isolde's gaze made Ilara's heart ache. She stepped closer, reaching out a hand. You have made me feel seen. You've turned my voice into something valuable. We can spend this time together to fortify our purpose, with honesty. Yet, the queen recoiled as if Ilara had struck her. Perhaps you don't understand. I am losing my grip. The council grows restless, and my decisions reflect upon both of us. I fear they desire a more refined advisor, perhaps one from the court, rather than you. The air between them grew electric, charged with unresolved emotions. But I am by your side. I believe in your vision, Ilara implored, desperation rising in her voice. Belief is not enough anymore, Ilara, Isolde snapped, anger igniting her words. Perhaps our bond means little compared to regal expectation. I need to preserve my crown. Stunned, Ilara stepped back, the realization grasping her heart with chilly fingers. The queen's fear had morphed into self-protection, and though her decisions had always reflected her strength, this time it risked tearing their bond apart. I see, Ilara murmured, her heart heavy. You no longer trust me. In that brief silence, the space between them resonated with unspoken fears and tensions fraught with isolation. Isolde opened her mouth as if to respond, but faltered, the words seemingly trapped within her. Panic swelled within Ilara, and she took a step towards the door, feeling as though the very foundation had shifted beneath her. I will respect your wishes, Your Majesty. Perhaps time will help find clarity. Where are you going? Isolde's voice broke, but Ilara simply turned away, the ache of tears stinging her eyes. I must find my place, Ilara whispered, the weight of her words hanging heavily in the air. I cannot be relegated to the shadows of your throne while our kingdom hangs in uncertainty. The last glimpse of Isolde's face reflected truth. Aapia, queen wrestling with her responsibilities while a crumbling connection lingered in the background. The knot in Ilara's chest twisted painfully as she left, hearts heavy with the unraveling of their once bright bond. Outside, the night air felt cooler, a sharp contrast to the warmth they had shared during the festival. Ilara wandered through the gardens, Avoiding the flower beds that reminded her of the laughter they had cultivated together, she sought the solace of the enchanted forest at the periphery of the palace, yearning for clarity amidst the shadows. Even in the shadowy light, the beauty of the forest whispered comfort, showing her that uncertainty could lead into hidden paths. Perhaps this was a lesson in vulnerability after all, a lesson that included her growth alongside Isolde, despite their fraying bond. As she settled upon a weathered stone beneath the trees, tears pooled quietly in her eyes, and she felt the cool breeze brushing across her face. Standing by the roots of grand trees bearing witness to everything, her own fears and desires now felt amplified in the quiet. Their journey was destined to confront strife, a shared strength forged in vulnerability. Maybe they could mend what had been lost. With determination stirring within, Elara resolved to find a way back to the Queen. The connections they held were far too precious to let unraveling fears define their fate. Their bond would be tested, yes, but through the echoes of the past, Elara sensed that the roots of their friendship could weather the storm. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver glow over the world as Elara slipped away from the palace, drawn toward the enchanted forest. The air was crisp, filled with the scents of earth and the sweet fragrance of night-blooming flowers. It was a realm where the troubles of the kingdom faded, and the serene whispers of nature enveloped her like a soft blanket. With each step deeper into the forest, Elara felt the tension of the past few days begin to lift. The vibrant colors of the festival, the laughter of the townsfolk, and the warmth she had shared with Isolde lingered in her mind like a distant melody. Yet the rift that had emerged between them gnawed at her heart, clouding the once clear path ahead. Under the shelter of ancient trees, Elara found solace in the quiet. She wandered along a moss-covered path strewn with petals, guided by the gentle glow of fireflies. Each step brought echoes of forgotten dreams, calling her to listen. Seated upon a fallen log, she closed her eyes and allowed the sounds to envelop her. Chirping crickets, rustling leaves, and the soft sigh of the wind. It felt as though the forest itself conspired to share its wisdom. Perhaps she could connect with something greater than herself, a purpose that would direct her back to Isolde. Elara, a soft voice called from behind her. Startled, she turned to see a figure emerge from the dense foliage. It was Cedric, the lord who had once been Isolde's childhood friend and now served as her advisor. His presence felt both reassuring and ominous. "Cedric," she exclaimed, quickly wiping young tears from her cheeks. "What brings you here?" "I feared I would find you here. The Queen is worried." He stepped closer, concern etched across his brow. "She dismisses most discussions but has expressed distress over your absence." Elara sighed, feeling both drawn to and guarded around Cedric. "Isolde doesn't wish to see me right now. We had a disagreement, you could say." "Arguments have a way of revealing truths," he replied thoughtfully. "It's her pride and her fears that keep her from reaching out. She feels the weight of the crown heavier with every decision, including yours." "Is that not a burden we all share?" Elara asked, resting her head against the bark of the fallen log. "But the question remains, will she still believe in me when it matters?" Cedric joined her on the log, his gaze distant as they shared a moment of silence. "You gifted Isolde a voice and passion she thought long lost. But now she doubts whether the connection holds value." "What must I do?" Elara whispered, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "How can I remind her of who we are together?" "Sometimes," Cedric said slowly, "individual paths must intersect again to strengthen their bond. The forest has wisdom born from ancient roots. Let's seek its counsel." Intrigued, Elara sat up, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" "Legends speak of a spirit dwelling within the heart of the forest, an entity that offers guidance to those lost. In their paths," Cedric explained. "Perhaps we ought to seek its counsel, though the journey won't be easy. The spirit will not reveal itself readily. You must be prepared to confront your own fears to find it." "Lead the way," Elara replied, the flicker of determination sparking back to life within her. Together they ventured deeper into the woods, leaving behind the comfort of familiarity. As they walked, the trees grew taller, their trunks clothed in twisting vines. The air felt electric, buzzing with anticipation, as if the forest could sense their quest. Enveloping shadows danced around them, creating a harmony between light and dark. Hours passed, and just when Alara began to doubt the way forward, they stumbled upon a serene glade. At its center rested a tranquil pool, its surface reflecting the brilliance of the stars overhead. The atmosphere thickened as she approached the water, the air shimmering with possibility. "In the stillness of this place lies your truth," Cedric whispered, guiding Alara to kneel before the pool. "Look within." Cautiously, Alara peered into the water, seeing herself framed by the stars. As her reflection stared back, memories flickered like shadows. A frightened girl, a servant bound by duty, a fleeting maid. The faces of Isolde and the townspeople blurred within her thoughts, each demanding acknowledgement. "Why do I falter?" Alara murmured, voice breaking as she leaned over the pool. "What is it that I'm meant to learn?" A ripple disturbed the pool's calm, and in its reflection, the strings of her connection to Isolde began to weave together in vivid color. It showed moments of laughter, shared secrets within the palace walls, and the determination forged during the festival. But woven alongside them were shadows of doubt, misunderstandings, and the fear of facing the truth. "Embrace each thread, Alara," Cedric urged softly, kneeling beside her. "To understand your journey, you must acknowledge every part of it." Taking a deep breath, Alara understood. It was not about dismissing the fears, rather, it was about embracing them as part of her story. "Isolde and I have always been intertwined, but it feels as if I'm losing a piece of myself as she struggles with hers," she admitted, a lump forming in her throat. In that moment, the water glowed brighter, and a soft voice emerged from its depths, echoing through the glade. "Seek not only to mend the bond, but to empower one another. Trust is built through understanding, and growth thrives in vulnerability." Alara tightened her hands into fists, resolve firming within her. "I understand. It's time to show Isolde that we're stronger together, to remind her of her gifts and the bond we share." A wind swept through the trees, rustling leaves, like applause encouraging her. Cedric placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You possess the courage necessary to embrace this journey. The Queen needs you now more than ever." As the light faded back to its natural hue, Alara felt a newfound confidence breathing life into her spirit. She rose, glancing at Cedric. "Thank you for guiding me here. Now I must return to the palace with a clear mind." With that, they left the glade behind, stepping forward toward the unknown with an understanding that deepened their connection. Alara felt lightness in her heart, ready to confront her fears and mend the bond with Isolde. No longer would she be merely a maid. She would be a partner, guiding them both toward a brighter future, woven with love and compassion, echoing the whispers of the forest deep within her soul. The sun rose over the kingdom, casting a golden hue across the landscape that blossomed with the promise of a new day. Alara stood on the balcony of her modest chamber in the grand palace, heart racing with excitement. Having ventured into the depths of the enchanted forest the night before, she felt imbued with clarity, courage, and newfound determination to mend the bond with Isolde. The last few days had felt like an eternity. Their fateful argument echoed in her mind, but the wisdom, gleaned from the whispers of nature, had rekindled her resolve. Alara knew she needed to confront the Queen, to remind Isolde of the strength they wielded together. As the bell tolled for morning, signaling the start of a new day, Alara descended down the grand staircases, her heart pounding with each step. The echoes of her decisions resonated in the elegant halls, and she felt the weight of destiny pressing upon her shoulders. Today would require a delicate hand, one that navigated both their strengths and vulnerabilities. Pushing open the heavy wooden door to Isolde's chambers, Alara was met with a sight that tugged at her heart. The Queen sat before her ornate mirror, a troubled expression gracing her features. Isolde was still wrapped in a heavy gown, missing the vibrant cloak that reflected her spirit. a stark sign of her inner turmoil. "I hope I'm not intruding, Your Majesty," Ilara began softly, stepping inside. "I came to talk." Isolde turned slowly, eyes filled with a familiar mix of apprehension and surprise. "Ilara?" Her voice was barely a whisper, as if the weight of the word had been heavy on her heart for far too long. "I think it's time we found a way to talk. Truly, talk. I know our last conversation unraveled a lot between us," Ilara said, her voice steady and sincere. "Unraveled?" Isolde echoed, her brow furrowing in reflection. "It took years to build this crown, and yet it feels so fragile. I fear I don't deserve it anymore, especially with the burden of my choices pressing down harder than ever." Ilara stepped closer, her heart aching for the queen. "You deserve your crown because of who you are, not just because of what you wear, but you can't carry that weight alone. We are meant to share it." Isolde's gaze dropped, shame etched across her face, but the flicker of hope ignited within her as she met Ilara's eyes. "You say that, yet I allowed doubt to creep in. I feared your loyalty would falter amidst courtly expectations." A lump formed in Ilara's throat. "Loyalty is built on trust, Isolde, and even in our darkest moments, we can still trust one another. Yet you pushed me away when all I wanted was to stand by you." "I pushed you away because I was afraid," Isolde admitted, shame coloring her voice. "Afraid that my shortcomings could bring harm to those I swore to protect." "Then, let's change the narrative. Let's prove that strength lies in vulnerability," Ilara suggested, her voice firm. "You were brave enough to relinquish the facade during the festival, and I saw how it inspired others. We can do it again." For a moment, silence enveloped the room, thick with unresolved emotions. Then Isolde spoke, her voice trembling yet resolute. "You're right. I must embrace my vulnerabilities instead of hiding from them." Ilara extended her hand, and the queen observed it for a heartbeat, fear giving way to acceptance. When Isolde placed her hand in Ilara's, a surge of warmth flowed between them, an unspoken promise to mend their connection and push forward together. "I've realized we could invite the townsfolk here, Ilara. Allow them to be part of our decision-making, to share their voices directly," Isolde suggested, a spark igniting in her eyes. "Let's hold open councils where they can feel seen, heard, and valued. Together." Ilara's heart soared at Isolde's words. "That's a wonderful idea. Such gatherings will reinforce unity and trust." The queen's gaze grew serious as she considered the ramifications. "But first, I must apologize to the people and make amends for my past judgments. I let my pride cloud my vision, and I cannot lead without acknowledging my errors." "Then let's do it together," Ilara replied. "You are not alone. We are partners. Our strengths intertwine, and our connection is the foundation upon which we can build a stronger future." Isolde nodded, determination filling her once troubled features. "Yes, let's prepare for the councils. We will do this together." The two women began to map out their plans, excitement emanating from both as they worked tirelessly to rekindle the spirit of the festival in every council meeting. Together, they envisioned the space. Long tables adorned with flowers, laughter bubbling amidst discussions, where every voice rang out with importance. As the preparations unfolded, they invited the townsfolk, calling upon the very essence of community to join them. The palace that had once felt constricting began to blossom with renewed energy, shaping the fabric of a new narrative embodied by camaraderie and understanding. The day of the first council dawned bright and clear. Ilara wore a simple dress, its muted colors reflecting Isolde's royal regalia, but their eyes gleamed with the shared resolve that bound them. When the townsfolk began to gather, the air filled with anticipation, and the palace buzzed with excitement. Isolde took center stage, an air of confidence radiating around her. "My dear subjects, it is my wish to open these walls to your voices. Together we will shape this kingdom into one that resonates with shared dreams and understanding," she proclaimed. Applause rippled through the crowd as people gathered, to witness the rebirth of not just their queen but of the camaraderie forged between her and Alara, the queen and her sister in arms. As voices rose in unison, a vision unfolded that Alara had longed to see, a future where each and every one played an integral role in their kingdom's journey. In that moment, they were not merely ruler and maid, they were allies, friends, co-creators of a legacy destined to thrive. Alara glanced at Isolde, and they exchanged a smile filled with warmth and gratitude. Today marked the reclamation of their bond, a friendship forged anew beneath the crown. Together, they had not just salvaged their connection, but blossomed into the champions of their people, a crown truly formed in friendship.